This experience must have happened about a year ago now, and to this day, it still creeps me out. Me and my twin sister, Alexandra, both 20 now, had moved into our first flat 3 months before this happened. Our parents helped us settle in, with our dad hiring a van to help us move our stuff, and our older brother David was up on holiday from England with his family, so he too helped us out. Lucky enough for us, our flat was next door to one of our dad's old friends. His name was Oliver, and he was great. We hadn't seen him and his wife, Anna, in about 10 years now. The neighborhood we live in, which is in a small village about an hour from Glasgow in Scotland, is 99% of the time really quiet. And everyone around the area is really nice. But this one night, something just wasn't right. We were only really used to the area we were living in, but after what happened that one night, I've always been on edge. It was a dark winter night in late October, early November. It was a Thursday, I think, and me and my sister decided to stay up until about 1 a.m, as sometimes we did after a long week at college. We'd stay up drinking beers and talking about random stuff like acting, the subject we were both studying, motorbikes, guys, and some complaining too, just like any other normal teenagers would. We had the next day off, so staying up late on Thursdays was a regular thing. We then decided to put the lights out and get to bed as we began to grow tired. I would do the nightly routine check where I'd make sure all the lights were off and everything was locked. Which I'm glad I did it tonight because the previous days I'd forgotten. Then we both went to bed and fell asleep as usual. Just to set out the layout of the flat, me and my sister were on the first floor above an old woman. She was lovely, but we didn't see her very often. Our bedroom door was right next to the porch and the front light, and our bedroom window looks onto the street, so you can hear every single noise there. It was about 4 a.m. when we woke up to a loud knocking on the door. I was expecting a parcel the next day, so I initially thought it would have been the postman, but that's when I checked the time on my phone, which I usually leave on in case of emergencies, and it was 4:30. Still being tired and disoriented, I realized that it was far too dark to be about 10 a.m. when the postman usually came, even though the mornings are a lot darker now that it's winter. The banging on the door lasted what felt about 20 minutes, but was probably only 10. Me and my sister were too scared to move from our beds, only whispering quietly to each other just to ignore the banging and try and get back to sleep. Neither of us were very comfortable about answering the door at this hour. I don't usually answer the door to strangers, or even mobile numbers I don't recognize. Then, the banging stopped suddenly, and I heard heavy footsteps descend outside the stairs and next to the wall near my head. Everything fell silent for a few minutes, so I tried to settle back down, but my adrenaline was going crazy. I could feel my legs shaking. I was so nervous about whoever it was outside. Then I saw the flashing of a light through our bedroom window. It flashed at least 3 times as I counted them, but I can't remember if it flashed anymore. Then it stopped. I was confused why someone would flash what seemed like a signal through our bedroom window. I had no idea what this guy's deal was. I then heard what sounded like someone talking on the phone outside, and he sounded angry and agitated. Still being half asleep, I only heard mumbling and groaning, but I couldn't make anything out exactly. I didn't look outside of our bedroom window in case the man saw me, but minutes later, I heard the rumbling of a car engine below me, and with that I assumed it was just a car. His voice did become more and more explosive and angry, and I became more scared. I got to the point where I was about to phone the police, but then I heard the man opening a car door and leaving swiftly along the street. I don't know who the man was or what he wanted, and I didn't sleep at all that night. For the next few days after, every single noise would scare me. I was so terrified that the man would come back. After talking to my sister about it, she heard whoever it was knocking at the elderly lady's door downstairs too. But I don't know why they'd flash a light through our windows, especially if the lady was who they were looking for. It just didn't make any sense to me. But the story doesn't end there. I thought that it was someone with the wrong address, or maybe just a drunk guy. But about a week later, we got a knock at the door about 6:30 in the evening. This was unusual for such a quiet area, and neither me or my sister were expecting any mail. So I decided to open the door and see who was knocking. Initially, I thought it was our neighbor, asking to see how we were settling in. But not this time. It was a woman who was dressed in a suit and looked very professional. Her hair was up in a tight bun and holding a clipboard. I was a bit anxious, but I was also wondering who she was. I looked down at her name badge, and I can't remember her name, but for the purpose, let's call her Molly. Molly said that she worked for the criminal courts and was looking for a guy. His name was Thomas. He was previously a tenant in this flat before we moved in. Molly did mention something to do with money, but the visit was so vague, I don't really remember what she said. She asked if the man lived here, and I said no, just me and my sister. She then asked when we moved in and what renting agency we were with, but I think it was just to confirm that we did live here. She seemed nice enough. She got what she wanted and left, so I'm guessing he was just owing money, and that's why the creepy guy turned up a few nights before, banging loudly on our door. I am so glad I didn't answer the door that night, and I'm also glad I made sure it was locked. Who knows what would have happened if that creepy guy thought that we were the man they were looking for. I am happy to say that since then, there's been no further disturbances at our flat, but it still gives me the chills just thinking about it. I just hope that creep never comes back. This happened a few hours ago, and I'm not scared anymore, just angry my pizza got stolen. In my town, there's a story that a guy has moved deep in the woods on the close end of the town. I never believed it, and as I go for night drives occasionally, I never saw him or anything that resembled a man living in the woods. Well, anyway, tonight I decided to go for a drive and drove past a pizza place. Being hungry, I decided to get a pizza before I went home. In my head, I had a plan to eat the pizza and play some Minecraft, as I'm in my 2-week Minecraft phase. I paid for my pizza and started walking to my car with the pizza in one hand and my phone in the other. I was messaging my friend and was asking if he wanted to play Minecraft when I get home. I looked up from my phone to cross the road and get to the car park. I saw something under my car. It looked like a shadow or something. I put my phone in my pocket and pulled out my keys. I unlocked the car to scare off anything close, and I was thinking maybe it was just a cat or a dog hanging around. But when I unlock the car, nothing happens. No cat or anyone. The shadow looked like it was cast from the driver's side, so I was going to have to look at whatever it was and decided if I was getting in or not. I put my keys away and pull out my phone again to turn on the flashlight. As I turn towards the driver's side, I see him. A dirty, naked guy with big eyes staring at me. He was crouched down, trying to hide from me. Now, I don't usually get scared of anything, but this guy scared me. He looked like he rolled around in mud and it dried on his skin. His eyes looked creepy, bloodshot, and they were bulging out of his head. And he was naked. I got startled out of instinct and dropped my pizza in the process. It fell out of the box and onto the floor. I started moving back slowly and shouted at him to get away from my car. He just looked up at me, and then the pizza, and back at me. He tilts his head one side, and then jumps towards the pizza like a dog, grabs it, and started running down the road. I assumed he ran all the way to the woods. I wouldn't know where he went, and I wasn't following him. I lock my car and run back to the pizza place and stay there for a bit. The workers obviously didn't believe me when I tell them what happened, but I know what I saw. Once the fear subsides for a while, I realized the guy just stole my pizza. Angry as I was looking forward to it, I decided to get another one and run to my car this time. I get in, put the pizza on the passenger seat, and go home. Once I got home, I locked all my doors and windows. I even locked my bedroom door as I felt a little scared still. I think I'll be playing Minecraft until the sun comes up. So yeah, creepy, dirty, naked guy that lives in the woods close to my town, I never want to see you again, because I will have to fight you for stealing my pizza. This happened around 2014-2015. I was about 20 years old, and I'll give you some context before letting you know what happened. I was studying in a lovely seaside city in France. Everyone was cycling all the time, to school, to work, to parties. It was a very safe place, full of tourists and students. I lived and studied in the city between 2012 to 2015, up into the events of what I'm about to mention. And prior to that, I never felt unsafe, and I didn't hear anything from my friends either. In December 2014, my boyfriend took me to his engineering school's Christmas party. We were a large group of friends and mingled a lot. One of the guys from the group, who I didn't know personally, left the party without notice. A month later, he was found dead in a harbor, and the police never figured out what happened. I went online to check if there was any news, and it was still a cold case. I didn't know him, but I do think about it all the time. Was it because he was alone? Did he fall, or did someone push him? Why didn't anyone care to walk home with him? Needless to say, the city started feeling a lot less safe. But at 20 years old, I didn't have the same understanding of such things as I do as a 30-year-old, and my life carried on. A couple months passed, and it was the beginning of 2015. A friend was assaulted badly while cycling home after a party. He was found in critical condition. His body was lying halfway on the road and halfway on the sidewalk. His head was smashed in on the sidewalk step, and his jaw was completely shattered. He was also a big guy in every sense possible, not the sort of guy you could just push around easily. When he was recovering in the hospital, he couldn't make sense of what even happened. He had no idea why he was attacked on his bike, and the police didn't find any suspects. 2 students my age in the same friend circles were also brutally assaulted for no reason. I still cycled everywhere because I had no choice. I lived 8 kilometers away from the school, and I didn't have any other means of transportation. That meant that I cycled approximately 16 to 20 kilometers a day, and I've been doing so since 2012. Now in the spring of 2015, I'm cycling back from a party with my boyfriend. I've had a few drinks, but I'm not drunk, just tired. My boyfriend was getting annoyed with me because he didn't want to wait for me, and the distance was getting bigger between us. Suddenly, that was when someone jumped on me. He appeared from nowhere and kicks my bike to the floor. Since I've been cycling so much and I'm so used to the bike, I let the bike fall between my legs, but I didn't hit the ground. It was a man. I reached for my bike, which was now on the ground, with my left hand, and I'm trying to hold onto the handlebars, but then he kicked me, and then kicked my hand. He just kept kicking as I was already holding the handlebars, and it hurt, but I'm lifting the bike. He was saying something, but I honestly didn't hear it. I then see my boyfriend looking at me. He's a bit far away, but he stopped cycling. Now I'm just waiting for him to help me, and for the man to see that I'm not alone. I'm still standing and lifting my bike. It seems maybe 2 or 3 seconds since the man jumped on me. My boyfriend's looking, and then he turns his back. My heart drops, and he started pedaling away. It's now the dead of night, and there's no one else. I'm on my own. The man keeps kicking. He wanted me to let go, but my hands look blue and my grip is strong. I think about the other students, and that gave me a bit of strength. I think about my boyfriend, and the sight of him cycling away fills me with pure rage. I ended up using this rage, and the man was holding some kind of glass in his hand. I grabbed it with my free hand and smashed it into his face. I'm now furious, and I'm getting the bike up. Surely the glass had alcohol in it because his eyes were burning. I took the split second and launched myself and started pedaling away. Now that he couldn't reach me, he tries to kick my bike one more time. I was able to stand strong on the pedals. and he tried to chase me, but I was faster. I kept pedaling until I was numb and couldn't breathe. That night, I know I escaped something terrible. Due to the stress, I couldn't describe the man, and I will never know for sure if my experience was linked to the other attacks. However, we were all walking and cycling on the same route. And even 10 years later, I can still remember the look on my ex-boyfriend's face when he turned his back on me.